Good morning, children. Today I am starting a new chapter, Should Wizard Hit Mommy, from the book The Stars, written by John Updike. Mommy means children here, mummy, mom, and wizard, you understand? Wizard means a man who has magical powers. And this word you will find in legends and fairy tales, especially where the description of a person with magical powers you find. So, such person with magical powers is called a wizard. So, children, here in this story, two main characters are there: Jack, the father, and Joe, his little daughter, who was about 4 years old, whom he used to tell stories, bedtime stories, and especially on Saturdays. And his almost every story used to be the same, with slight variation from the basic tale. And in all the stories, the mention of one character, Roger, was always there. Fine. So now I'm starting with the text. Now see your text before you read. Here is a short story about the worldview of a little child and the difficult moral questions she raises during the session with her father. So, children, this story the writer has written from the point of view of a little child. Means that how a child perceives the world. And during her story session, how this little girl, Jo, she used to raise difficult moral questions with her father, and which the writer thinks are very important to be answered by the adults. Those adults who hardly try to understand the viewpoint of the small children. Means they hardly try to understand the way the children see the world, the way they perceive the world. Fine. Now, in the evenings and for Saturday naps, like today's, Jack told his daughter Jo a story out of his head. So, children, every evening and especially on Saturdays, Jack, the father, used to create a story for his daughter, and this custom began when she was 2 years old and was itself now nearly 2 years old. Means that time she was 2 years old, and this custom of telling her the stories began 2 years back. So in this way we can say that now her age was 4 years. Fine. And each new story was a slight variation of a basic tale. Means almost every story used to be the same with slightest variation in the main story. And a small creature, usually whose name he used to keep Roger, was always there. Sometimes it was Roger fish, and sometimes Roger squirrel, or Roger chipmunk. What is chipmunk? It's ground squirrel and found in North America. Fine. Means character with Roger name he used to include in his every story. And in every story, he used to include certain points also. What points? That whenever this Roger character had some problem, he used to go to the wise old owl, and the owl told him to go to the wizard to get a solution to his problem. And then the wizard performed a magical spell. Means he would chant some magical words and solve the problems. So for all this, the wizard would means all this he would not do free of cost. But for all this, for doing all this, for chanting the words and for means telling him that yes, you could find a solution for it. So for all this, he would demand his fee. The wizard would demand his fee, and the fee would always be a number of pennies, which were always more than the pennies the Roger creature had with him. Fine. And then in the same breath, this wizard would then direct Roger to a place where the extra pennies could be found. And then Roger was so happy that he played many games with other creatures, other creatures, and after playing a number of games with his friends, this Roger character went home to his mother. Just in that particular time, means in every story he would return back to his mother in that particular period of time, that time when he would hear the whistle of the train that brought his daddy from Boston in USA. And after this, Jack, the father, described the supper. What is supper? The last meal of the day. And in this way, the story was over. Means these were the common sequence of episodes in all his stories, which he used to create for his little daughter Jo, and with the character Roger. Clear? So means this is those stories which he used to create for his 4 years old daughter. And means whenever he used to tell the stories, he used to tell with great interest. Though telling a story every day was quite fatiguing and means quite exhausting for him, but especially he would often tell the story with great enthusiasm, and especially means every day, but especially on Saturday it was quite fatiguing for him, quite exhausting for him, because now what he was finding, that the purpose of telling the story was actually what the purpose was there, to make us sleep. But now instead of falling asleep in naps, she had started taking interest in all the stories told by Jack. So the custom of telling the stories, especially on Saturdays, to make her asleep seemed futile, seemed useless, because the intention behind it was not getting fulfilled, and often the short stories started turning into a long story, because now she did not sleep after listening those stories, but started taking interest. And not only this, she even started raising moral questions in between. Clear? So that day also he told a story, and what new story Jack created for his daughter. Children, this we will do in our next lesson. So till then, you revise this much. For today, this much only. Thank you, children.